from Haven, from Hope, into this apartment so that we could get out of this homeless situation. To what? To be put back in a homeless situation because somebody wants to make more profit? That's not all right. This is not right at all.
This is Greg Harmon with Deceleration, deceleration.news, talking extreme heat and forced displacement in downtown San Antonio, Texas, ball fields, entertainments, private profit, and climate collapse. Hang tight, we'll do our best to take care of you. Deep into yet another boundary-violating hottest year on planet Earth. We are still waiting, coming up now on Halloween, a few days away, for fall weather to finally arrive in Texas. We've seen over these last few years how our vastly inadequate systems of care have led to the deaths of many of our neighbors from the heat. Too frequently highlighted by deceleration include Albert Garcia, who died in the extreme heat of 2023, and Jessica Witzel, who perished in a downtown sidewalk this summer. There are likely untold numbers of folks dying who are sheltered as well. One Brownsville couple was recently highlighted by Inside Climate News, for example. But heat surveillance isn't happening across the state of Texas, definitely not in San Antonio, in large part because here our medical examiner has not been instructed by the county commissioners and county judge to track heat deaths. So there's a great unknowing in spite of the overwhelming heat. Now, where we know and what we know is in where heat tracking is happening in a good way. So we look to Maricopa County in Arizona, where there's a multi-agency press ongoing for years to understand how heat is impacting the public health. And what we learned there is that housing is critical to survival. Okay, so in 2023, among 650 deaths in Maricopa County, Arizona, 75% of all those deaths occurred out of doors. And nearly half of all of those deaths were people experiencing houselessness, homelessness, unsheltered individuals with very limited access to cooling. So back in Texas, land speculators, including the elected variety, the bureaucratic variety, and property flipping agencies' interests are leaning hard on the working class families, especially here downtown, forcing more of them into the streets in the very near future with some of these deals ongoing. In downtown, we see plans to demolish, for instance, the soap factory apartments, which deceleration featured 6 years ago when we first were looking at gentrification pressures following city policies, and now we're looking at this rising baseball stadium vision and promised mixed use development around that. So this has been the shiny lure too attractive for our council to resist. We're going to hear from Megan Navarro, who moved into the Robert E. Lee after being displaced by a fire at her East Side residence. She was checking in, wasn't even told that this deal was in the works that would likely see her unhoused again in short order.
I was actually completely caught off guard by this whole Western urban inquisition. I wasn't made aware of it when I signed my lease, and actually on my second day of living there overnight, I was coming up the elevator with all of my bags and my stuff and my Ross haul to furnish my new apartment. And my neighbor was like, "Hey, what do you think of this whole Western urban displacement?" And I was taken back. I was like, "Wait, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about." And so we stayed in the elevator for a bit, and he explained a little bit more. And I frantically went to my apartment, started opening up my laptop and looking into it. And there wasn't much information that I could find. I think I found one article by the San Antonio Report, and that's all I had to go off of. So I set my alarm early so I could be the first one in the leasing office. And did that, went downstairs to talk to the property manager. And the property manager just pretty sternly said, yeah, so that is true. And, you kind of fell into a gray area. Some tenants did receive the certified letters, but you didn't get one, and legally we didn't have to give you one. And so that kind of felt like a punch to the gut, you know?
So this Weston Urban, whose stated mission is to, quote, build the city our kids want to call home, owns the soap factory, 381 unit apartments there that are moving towards, looks like demolition for this ball field. Apparently are also looking at purchasing the Robert E. Lee apartments a few blocks to, I believe that's to the east there, where we heard from Megan Navarro. These are big projects, bundling projects intended not to do things like, you know, when as we're having dozens of I guess there was officially a dozen heat deaths we're aware of last year in San Antonio, across the state, closer to 600. And in the midst of this is not, you know, we're not talking about urban forests. We're not talking about affordable worker housing. We're talking about losing affordable worker housing. We're not talking about cooling centers or vertical farms or anything that would actually be useful in the midst of climate catastrophe, right? We're talking about a ball field, which, you know, perhaps maybe, you know, we could get into FEMA camps. That may be one secondary use in the near future. We'll see. In September, so the city council voted 9-2 for that ball field, for the funding mechanism for $2,500, I think, relocation assistance to some of those tenants in the soap factory. Deceleration, we're going to be dropping in our show notes links to some of the organizations. If you want to like tie in and tap in and know like the day-to-day how to support and what's going on, we're going to like forward that, right? So Coalition for Tenant Justice, Texas Organizing Project, Pueblo Over Profit, Oppressed Revolutionaries for Worker Power. These are groups. I'm sure there's many others that I'm neglecting here, but we're going to just drop those links in there for you. We want to highlight here use this space to really highlight this group of residents we met from the Robert E. Lee apartments who, in kind of that same ball field area, are now fast organizing to prevent a similar outcome to what appears to be coming down the pipe for the soap factory residents. And again, this is Weston Urban and plans for whatever private profit dense playground is being imagined. So we're going to return back to Megan Navarro in a bit. But first, you know, I want to just kind of highlight a few issues. We know that even with the small amount of money being offered to soap factory residents, displacement brings a certainty of injury and even death for some of those residents, whether it be from a return to unsheltered status in a city with sizzling pavements more than half of the year, or disrupted social networks of support that fill in for the failures of our social systems and networks of care, so that they provide far less that is actually required, you know, for a life of health and dignity in this way. We learned a lot about this back a few years ago about what displacement means through studying the mass eviction of hundreds of residents at Mission Trails Mobile Home Park on the city's south side. That was primarily Deceleration's now executive editor Marisol Cortez, who was deeply involved in resisting that displacement and subsequently used her sociological training to document the impacts and published a report on that with Vecinos de Mission Trails. So I turn it over to Marisol.
So just a little bit about the report that Vecinos produced back in we started in 2015 and we finished it and put it out into the community in 2017. We interviewed, you know, after the last families were forcibly removed from Mission Trails Mobile Home Community, we kind of embarked on a process of trying to document what had happened afterwards to those families. It's sort of an irony of displacement, but one that really serves the interests of those making the decisions to displace and those benefiting from public decisions to displace, to be able to say, gosh, we just don't know what happened to people. We have to assume that everything went fine, that their lives are better. So we wanted to actually be able to make visible the impacts of the decision to rezone the land at Mission Trails Mobile Home Community for luxury apartments along the San Antonio River, the Mission Reach south of downtown, right? And so what we found, we interviewed, we ended up interviewing, I think, 51 households out of 86 that we were able to locate, out of a total of 106 that were displaced, which was around 300 individuals that were displaced from Mission Trails. So we had a pretty good response rate. And what we found when we talked to people, we collected some oral history. Just tell me the story of what your family went through after you were forced out. And then we collected some specific data around housing impacts, health impacts, economic impacts, and social and family well-being impacts. And what we found, kind of one of the most kind of horrifying things that we found, was that 3 people actually died after they were displaced. 2 of them were kind of very either medically or socially vulnerable elders, and one was a man who died by suicide. And so that was kind of the, a really powerful realization that this is a public health issue, right? This question of who has the right to remain, who has the right to housing, who has the right to, just to have a secure place to live. It's not an abstract question. It does result in deaths, at least it did in the case of Mission Trails. The second thing that we found that was really striking, at least to me, was that people became homeless. And they became homeless in different ways. A lot of them joined kind of the ranks, especially those that were primarily Spanish-speaking, joined the ranks of the hidden homeless. So they were sort of doubled up with friends and family for long periods of time. But, some people ended up living out of their van, right? An elder, a veteran, who was one of the last to be removed from Mission Trails, ended up living in his van for a number of weeks before he found housing. But the kind of bigger story that we discovered, the bigger pattern, was that, it wasn't like people were displaced and then they found a new place to live. Oftentimes there was a long chain of displacements unfolded after they were removed from Mission Trails. Up to 5 times they had to move, right? Because they had to move quickly. They had to get out of the park, not on their own timeline, with not enough relocation assistance from the developers. And so they had to move to places that were inadequate. They had to move to places they didn't want to go. They had to move to places they could afford, which in some cases had a number of problems that made it so that they had to move again. So it sort of created a long chain of sort of housing destabilization. And then the third thing I think that really came out of that study was that the relocation assistance that was being offered by the developers was not enough, not by far. At the time, I think there was sort of you were either offered like $2,500, or if you owned I think renters got $1,000. People that were like leased to own, I think, were $2,500, and then there was another that was like $4,600. But when we asked everybody, putting together all of the expenses that you had from moving, how much would have been a just amount of relocation assistance? And it was around $9,000, right? And people's responses were sort of clustered. And that was roughly what we also averaged in terms of when people added up their expenses. That was roughly equivalent to what it cost them to move. And some, it was much higher, right? It was more in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. Some had more resources, but it was right around $9,000, or the at a minimum sort of baseline $10,000, right? And it's a different situation with mobile homes. maybe there's more expenses, but at the same time, most people didn't keep their mobile homes. That was sort of another impact of the displacement, is that people moved from being homeowners to being renters or to having mortgages. Their housing burden increased significantly because of displacement, which affected every other aspect of their lives, right? And so I see a number of parallels between Mission Trails and the situation at Robert E. Lee. I think for years and years we were told, leading up to Mission Trails, we need, there's a decade of downtown. We want people to move back downtown. We want more residential apartments. We want people to be living here, right? We have to activate the center city. Well, here we have people living downtown, right? And they can't afford, they're not going to be allowed to stay because they're not the right kind of people. They don't have the right to remain living downtown, right? Compared to the interests of those making these decisions around the stadium, Western Urban, and the city of San Antonio and the county. The second parallel that I see is just the same disrespect of a basic lack of notification. When I was reading over the kind of the main takeaways from the executive summary of the report, that was, that when we asked people what was, the biggest impact of the decision to rezone that you experienced, your family experienced. And when, what high up there was just like the right to be notified that these decisions are being made, right? And when the city formed its task force on housing, that was the first thing that the task force tackled, was this question of the right to notify people who legally, in the state of Texas, because they're mobile home, because mobile home owners are not considered like real owners or renters, right? In the state of Texas, don't have a right to be notified. That was one of the things they were trying to fix, and I don't know that they did. And even if they did, like, we're seeing that same basic disrespect for the humanity of the people living at Robert E. Lee play out all over again the way that it did in Mission Trails, where people were surprised, that the place that they lived was being kind of sold out from under them without their prior knowledge. And then, I think a really important one too that I see a lot of parallels with the impacts of not just displacement but heat is the way that crisis or the impact of these decisions gets invisibilized, right? Because there's not a political will to know what's happening to the most vulnerable. We could know, if we wanted to, what happens to people after they're displaced when the city decides they want to build a baseball stadium or luxury housing. We could know in a similar way, how many people are dying from extreme heat. Who are they, right? Who is most at risk from that public health emergency? But there's no will to know, right? So there's a politics of knowledge, which is really about a politics of making the impacts of these crises we're living visible so that we can do something about them, right? You can't do anything about these things if you don't actually have information to make it visible.
So we shift back to Megan Navarro, who's describing to us, her travails, losing her apartment, all of her property in a fire at an East Side apartment complex, and finally finding her way to the Robert E. Lee.
So that was really hard to deal with, and that situation wasn't handled well at all. But fortunately, I had renter's insurance, so I was placed in a hotel by my renter's insurance, and I was using my loss of use coverage, and finally I was relieved after searching for apartments in the downtown area. There's not much that's affordable here. I looked into the soap factory, looked into the Robert E. Lee, tried to transfer my lease to Museum Reach because they're owned by the same property management company that owns the Calcasieu, they weren't being very forthcoming, and they're like, oh, you have to deal with everything with the fire over there first before we can even look at your application. So I was just being thrown like a lot of red tape and curveballs after curveballs. So I was relieved to finally get into the Robert E. Lee after waiting 2 months and you know, sleeping in a hotel. And then on my second day, that kind of the rugs just, you know, swept out from underneath me.
Now, we should add in here, so Megan is a law student. Okay, so all of this did not sit well with her, obviously. Her research led her to understand better state protections for renters, to form a tenants union. She got active. What should we do about it? We want to stay, the residents are telling her. And many of those residents she came to find out were previously homeless, were people on disability, on vouchers. The odds are already stacked against them, she told Deceleration. And with the Robert E. Lee building in downtown San Antonio, this is all bills paid. So this is now a story of organizing from square one.
Right, so I try to tackle things with one step at a time and what I can handle, and I try to apply reason to a situation. So when I was told legally we didn't have to tell you that didn't sound correct to me. So I'm actually studying under attorney John Lamerson at San Antonio College, and I'm finishing up my paralegal studies degree before I go on and transfer on to St. Mary's and finish my studies up there and then go on to my Juris Doctorate program. And he's like, no, that's not right. Let me get you in contact with a couple of people that practice property law and preserve tenants' rights. So he assisted me with that and letting me know which direction to go. And so I did that, started making phone calls and just doing research on looking up property law. And so I found that there were protections under the law in the state of Texas to form a tenants union. And so I said, I'm new to this building. I've only been here a couple of days, but let me see what other people know. Maybe they know something that I don't. Well, it turns out nobody really knew much of anything. All they knew is they had these certified letters with really confusing jargon that wasn't in layman terms, so most people couldn't understand it. So that's all I had to go off of. So I decided to form a tenants union. And with the union, I was inviting members of my community in the building to come out and to the lobby and to discuss what was happening. And one of the core questions I had was, what do you want us to do about it? What should we do about it? And the consensus for the 27 or so people that showed up to that first meeting was, we want to stay. We do not want Western Urban to displace us from our home. And it was communicated to me that most of the residents were previously homeless. Some had stayed at Haven for Hope. They got vouchers. A lot of people are on fixed incomes. They're on Social Security disability. So there's a limit to how many resources they can have. So the odds are already stacked up against them. And Robert E. Lee is the only building in downtown San Antonio that's all bills paid. And so I started having these conversations, as many as I could, between going to class and going to both of my jobs to get as much information and stories that I could. And a lot of people were telling me, I don't have family. This is the only family I have had. I've lived here for 20 years. I've lived here for 15 years. I've lived here for 7 years. Some people had just moved in and were in the same boat as me, and they didn't know anything. Students, young professionals. So we were all pulling together to decide, what do we want to do about this? So after we all decided, we do not want Western Urban to own this building, and we started figuring out exactly how much real estate they own downtown and the people they were already displacing, we decided we're not going to be the next ones. So we decided to pull together and affirm our rights. And so given my background and what I'm going to school for, they asked me to step up and kind of take this mantle on and advocate for all of our rights collectively. So that's what we're doing. We're having our meetings, but it's not without resistance, unfortunately. Property management has been paying maintenance to stay overtime to actually spy on our meetings. And on our first meeting, one of the maintenance men actually intimidated some of the residents that were there, and they went back upstairs
Do you know specifically kind of what happened?
Yes. So, actually, a resident that's here right now was told that her husband couldn't be there, and the maintenance man got really confrontational and kind of like puffed out his chest and was like, "Oh, you're gonna have your wife speak for you. You guys don't have the right to be down here and convening," which is not true. It's a direct violation of what's in the Texas Property Code. We have the right to the common areas as being renters of that property, and it's also a protected form of freedom of speech, is the right to convene. So that's something I've contacted Trilla, Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, about as well, and it's being looked into further. But I did try to make contact with property management and let them know that what they're doing is violating the law, and they kind of laughed it off and said, "Well, we don't have to. You need our permission." And I said, "I don't need your permission. I don't need your permission to exercise my rights as a tenant in the state of Texas." Yes, so I actually made several flyers in English and in Spanish because I wanted it to be as accessible as possible. Since I haven't met everybody in the building, I didn't want to assume that they only spoke English, so we had it translated into Spanish as well. And so I put those flyers with the meeting times, and fortunately at that time management wasn't aware of what I was doing. And so about a fourth of the residents in the building got them, but mainly the people on the upper floors did not. And so those flyers were torn down and they were ripped up and thrown in the trash. And so I did address that with them, and I told them, you're not allowed to do that. We have the right to canvass in the building, to have organizers on the property, to leave flyers either on the door or even under the door. And I showed them the property code, or at least I tried to, but they weren't having any of it. And they said, "No, you need our permission." And I said, "I don't. This is a Texas property code." And then management hasn't really spoken to me since, but I have neighbors, particularly across the hall, that started getting really confrontational with me. So unfortunately, I had to put up cameras outside of my apartment to feel safe. And I
don't know if you can just describe specifics, but what do you mean confrontational?
So I actually had a neighbor last Sunday stop me as I was coming in through the front doors of the Robert E. Lee and point their finger in my face, like this close to my face, and say, "You cannot do that. You cannot leave flyers. You can't talk about this. You can't pass this out." And so I had to put a stop to that and say, "Okay, you need to get your hand out of my face." And as I've told you many times, this is the property code. This is where you can find it. This is the information. I'm sorry that you're being misinformed, but don't act on their behalf, because I'm already having the situation looked into and handled. And I told my neighbor that was doing that, I said, "You're actually violating our lease agreement, because there's an anti-harassment part in the lease agreement." I was like, "So you're actually the one that's breaking the rules. I am not." And since then, they have not harassed me, but other people have told me that they are saying very negative, defamatory things about me that aren't true. And I really just try to keep to myself because I'm very busy. I'm a single mother. I have 2 jobs. I work in nonprofit. I organize. I'm very busy. I'm a full-time student. So I'm really not a person trying to cause trouble, aside from good trouble, to let people know what their rights are as a tenant. And unfortunately, the more we have these meetings and these conversations, a lot more is being uncovered as far as disability rights violations, bed bugs issues, the elderly being forced to sleep on the floor, excess fines, and just things that need to be uncovered and exposed as far as being, subjected to that as a tenant. So after we collectively decided that we were going to fight against Western Urban and form this union, I started talking to other members in the community, and I connected with Philip, who's one of the leaders here at the soap factory and leading the organizing here. And he connected me with the People's Housing Summit that was going on at St. Mary's Law School. So last Saturday, I went and I tried to get all my homework done and make it out there. And at the last minute, they were like, "Yeah, you want to be on the panel?" And I was like, "Sure." And I just kind of let my spirit speak for itself and tell the stories of Robert E. Lee and the people that wanted me to share what was happening. And through that speech, a lot of people approached me immediately afterwards, after I got off the stage, and people from local government and the housing trust and different resources, because I talked about, wanting to find a way to ownership of this building, so it's never, we're never put in this situation again, and it stays affordable housing, because affordable housing is already just so sparse in San Antonio, and it's not acceptable. We're the 7th largest city in the United States, and I think they said the data was that there's about 116,000 people that need it, and there's only 16,000 units or something like that available, and they want to take the very little affordable housing we have here in District 1 in downtown San Antonio. So we're not going to have that. So I made connections with the Housing Trust, and I recently had meetings with them and gave them my ideas, and we're exploring all of our options, and I'm going to exhaust all of them, speak to every nonprofit that I can to get the word out, because we do not want to be displaced. It's violent, it's cruel. These people need a safe place to call home, and a lot of them are in walking distance from their primary care physicians. And the demographics in the Robert E. Lee is primarily elderly folks. And, they can't just pick up and move, and with what we've been told that Western Urban is offering, soap factory tenants, it's well below the federal guidelines of a situation like this of what they should be offering. So I've been contacting congressmen, particularly Greg Cesar's office, about getting the metrics and the data that we need to support their argument with the soap factory of what they deserve. But ultimately, we want to save the Robert E. Lee building. We want to save the soap factory. We do not need another baseball field. Nelson Wolf is just fine. It affects the economy over there and the small businesses. They're against it. We're against it here. We're against displacement. So we want to save Robert E. Lee. We want to stay in our homes, and we're fighting. We're fighting for our homes.
Next is Teresa Blanchard. She is a 3-year resident of the Robert E. Lee who struggles with health issues and has found within her home community there, among her neighbors, networks of support, that have allowed her, to build a good life. While the city is, leaning on this idea that there's a ball field, is going to improve the quality of folks' life, she has a very different view.
Right now, our home is in jeopardy. They want to sell it, and all of us are going to be displaced. We don't know what we're going to do or where we're going to go. So it's pretty much, we're not sure what we're going to do. As far as I've been able to find, it's the only place that has all bills paid and it's affordable. It's everywhere else, it's pretty much, you got to pay electric, water, all separate. And it's a place where if you're on housing or low income, it's the only place you can go now. Everything else is either being bought up or they're shutting down for whatever reason, we're not sure yet. It's just one great big family. We're not related by blood, we're related by choice. I mean, that's our union. That's our family. And a lot of people don't understand that. They just think, oh, they don't matter, but we do matter. Just because we're poor and we don't have a lot of money doesn't mean we should be left behind or forgotten or pushed out of the way. We put together a little food pantry. We also help one another out, a little bit of money here and there if they need rent, if we can afford it. Yeah, people come together and we do stuff like that together. Even when one another ends up in a hospital or something and we have pets, we'll bring the pets into our homes and we'll watch them and take care of them and wait for their owners to come back. So we just stick together. It's just a family. It's no different than a blood family. It's the same thing. You know how blood family, they see one member needs help with food or a babysitter or anything. We're there for each other. That's the biggest thing. I don't mind, baseball and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love baseball.
It's good.
But to displace everyone over a baseball field, what is that? I mean, that's not worth it to me. You're telling the world that having a baseball team in the middle of downtown rather than finding somewhere where people are not currently living is more important than putting us all on the street. How is that fair? Most of us, we work downtown. This is where we work. And these places, the soap factory, Robert E. Lee, these are the closest places to those jobs. How are we going to commute? I mean, yeah, we've got buses and stuff, but that also costs more money. Money that we all don't have. The cost of living here is so high, and the money that we get, it's very little. It's not enough, especially if you stop and you think you've got rent. You got a cell phone bill you got to pay for. So this way you can stay in contact with doctors and your job and whatnot. Then you got to stop and think, there's food. The cost of food, the cost of everyday items to bathe and keep yourself clean. All of that adds up, and now you're going to add in more cost for us. We're not going to be able to survive. Most of us are going to be on the street, homeless. That's the unfortunate truth, because most of the people at Robert E. Lee can't afford to move. And not just that, how are they going to move? Most of them are disabled. They're like me, they're handicapped or they're elderly. We got our veterans there that, they're already suffering as it is with mental health and dealing with what happened when they were serving for us. So this isn't fair to them either. None of us deserve to be put on the street just for a baseball field. Yeah, it's too hot. And then when the winter comes in, it's really cold. We drop into the 20s or lower. How are we going to survive like that? Yeah, sure, we've got homeless shelters, but they can only hold so much. And even then, it's not the best way to live either. That's no quality of life. And a lot of people that are living at Robert E. Lee, we moved from Haven from Hope into this apartment so that we could get out of this homeless situation. To what? To be put back in a homeless situation because somebody wants to make more profit? That's not all right. This is not right at all. And we're standing up against this. This is not cool. We're not going to be silent about this anymore. We're going to fight back. We need other people to join in and tell big businesses and our congressman and our governor and everybody that they can, no, this is not okay. This needs to stop. Period. Find somewhere else to build your baseball field. Find somewhere else to build whatever it is you're trying to do to make more of a profit without hurting the people. There's always another way. There's always another option.
Next, we spoke with Monica Cruz, who's a housing justice advocate and community researcher, a trained demographer who teaches at both, I believe, UTSA and St. Mary's University on the west side. She described these patterns of displacement as not something that's unique to San Antonio and not new, right? This is ongoing, and this is something that we still haven't seemed to learn or improved upon. She talked about how, anytime that, land values increase, there's this speculative, exercise that goes on, and people are swept away. Historically, these are primarily black and brown and folks, she described, and working class, poor white folks. When land becomes, I think her quote was, something about anytime it's attractive for development, the powers and economic forces and developers come in, they buy the land, they displace the people, and we just don't have the protections. So a key thought from her that I would just want to highlight up at the top of this is, even when you sweep out folks and demolish and bring it for mixed use, you never get back the quality of affordability of working class homes. You just don't get it back. You get a smattering here and a smattering there. But yeah, it doesn't balance out. Here's Monica.
Oftentimes, I think government's attempts, for decades now is trying to, remove displaced people for economic reasons, and as a result of that, oftentimes it's brown and black families and neighborhoods that are affected. I mean, we think of urban renewal that happened in the, was it 1950s. There's cases here in San Antonio where just blocks of swaths of neighborhoods, especially in the downtown area, were just removed. And there have been cases historically here in our city, and you see it happening now here in 2024. Oftentimes you just, when areas become, when land becomes attractive for development, you'll have powers and economic forces and developers that come in and buy land and, displace people. And we don't have enough protections for that in our city. Here in San Antonio, we also know that, with the work of the city and the research that has evolved with housing, when we really look at the data about who is facing the greatest housing insecurity, we see the extremely low-income populations having little or no choice or places to go. Even here within the San Antonio Public Housing Authority, or San Antonio, what SAHA, but is now Opportunity Home, there have been already cases of, demolishing public housing and building with mixed income. And any time that public housing, which is 100% public housing for families, gets demolished and one partners with a developer, you're not going to get all of those units back. So what happens to those families? Currently, Opportunity Home has a wait list of over 100,000 people. And
Opportunity Home is the public.
Opportunity Home, the public housing entity, has a wait list of over 100,000 people. And so we need more public housing, not less, and we need more affordable housing, not less. And here at, it's happening here at Soap Factory. You see a developer, Weston Urban, kind of taking land and using it for economic reasons that benefit very few. We're likely going to have close to 700 people displaced from this area. And we have to realize, I think as a city, and most cities have to realize, that the working class, the working poor are the backbone of the economy, and we are displacing them and making it more challenging for them to even live near where they work, and have to deal with, I think, what still is a poor infrastructure for, public transportation in the city. I think the city here in San Antonio is trying to do something with some of their via development, but the big concern is that how are you going to, will people living along those new corridors, are they going to be displaced? How are neighboring and adjacent neighborhoods who have been there for generations going to be affected? So, a group of, housing justice groups held a People's Housing Summit, is what it was called, in September there at St. Mary's University, and the idea was to lift the voices of those that do this work and to provide more awareness about what's happening, because we are dealing with a housing crisis in this city, and I think collectively we need to do more. So housing and and climate justice are just very much interconnected, and our most vulnerable populations are the ones that are bearing the brunt of all of this, and we need to do better. We just have to do better. I think the strength of a city should be measured on how well it takes care of its most vulnerable, and I think that we're doing a poor job in this city. We need to do better. More and more of the population that are having very few choices where to live but out on the street, and we've seen a lot of deaths as a result of that because of the heat. So we're at a place where we have to do better in San Antonio, and there's got to be we have to really lift the boat for everyone and not just a few.
And this is a spot that, it's just a long podcast. We want to include these thoughts, these conversations in as much fullness as possible. We reserve the bulk of our time for this installment for Ruben Valdez, whose life story is a lesson for many of us in the value of home. We do offer a trigger warning here concerning death and suicide. So if you are struggling and find these kinds of conversations and experiences to be triggering, this is a fine place to drop off the conversation. I think you know where we're headed, and go into the show notes and find those organizations that are doing work to protect residents in place. But I do want to, moving forward, to highlight Ruben's experience. This is so important in the value of a home. For many of us, we have the privilege of just not getting it. And so here in his story, we hear about the life of a man who grew up, as a child, growing up as a farm laborer, migratory farm labor, agricultural worker, who traveled across the United States with his family for many years, for decades, and just gradually, slowly building up the capital in order to pool their resources and purchase a home. And so this was a multi-generational home where Ruben was able to grow comfortably old, right, and purchase the occasional, a nice hat or a piece of jewelry. He describes cooking regularly for his family. He was an accomplished chef, as he describes. He'd be Italian one day, or another style and another, and taking care of his nieces and nephews and an older sibling until COVID-19 struck. And from there is a tragedy, a deep one, that really highlights, what happens when everything falls apart, and the value of a home when you're fortunate, enough to rediscover one, as Mr. Valdez has at the Robert E. Lee. So this is the concluding conversation, and we're just going to let this run. If this is valuable to you, consider checking in at deceleration.news. You can become a monthly sustainer at $1 a month, or $5 a month, kind of whatever it is, and we'll close out with a pitch. But without any other delay, we want to extend this time to Mr. Valdez.
My little niece contracted COVID from school, and I didn't know it was COVID. I thought it was like a fever or something, because she felt real bad, and I had to go pick her up. Because the nurse called, hey, your niece, she got a little fever and she don't feel so good. Can you come pick her up? I even had a truck. So I went to go pick her up in the truck, brought her home, bought her NyQuil, everything, but little did I know it was COVID. And it was going on about a week or a week and a half. She started coughing so bad that she was bleeding, and she goes, look, Theo, I'm bleeding. So I called the ambulance. I was bleeding too, but I didn't want to alarm them. So I was getting real bad myself. My lungs were collapsing. So when I got to I called the ambulance. 7 ambulances came for us. Everybody went in the ambulance. That was the last time I saw them. So when they got into the ambulance, that was the last time.
How many of your family?
6. My little niece, 9, 10, and 12. My 2 cousins, 20, 22, and my sister, she was 85. I was like her provider because I was a framer. I weighed 490 at the time, and the scaffold broke, and I fell 2 stories under the garage, and I hit pure cement. I got a umbilical hernia, a bad back, my legs are bad, I can't walk that good, and COVID gave me arthritis on my bones, and that's eating my bone marrow. So it's finishing me off little by little, and
Were you at the Soapworks when you all, or at the Robert E. Lee?
no, when my boss came in and paid me my last check at the house, I told him to meet me at the house where I used to live. Brought me a check of $800 that he owed me, and he goes, "Man, I will take you home, but I don't know where to put you. I got all my family there." And so from there, I just started walking downtown like with a chicken without a head, and I got to town. I had $800. I said, you know what? I needed something to kill the pain, so I bought 4 cases of Budweiser. Sat under the bridge right there by Picnic and Commerce. I mean, Frio and Commerce. Got under the bridge. While I sat there drinking my beer, I'm looking at all these homeless people. I go, how did I get here, man? Now I'm one of these people, and I don't want to live like these people. I'm looking at them, man. I didn't have no clothes in my bag, nothing. Didn't know where to go or what to do. I'm just drinking my sorrows away, and just looking at all these homeless people, the way they're living, just sleeping on the floor, which I had a bed, you know. I had clothes. They threw all my clothes. I had 95,000 of jewelry that they took from me. Stetson had. I would dress up real nice. Now have tore up pants. I had some blue jeans on, a muscle shirt, and some flip-flops when I went to the hospital. I still have blood from my little nieces. I cleaned my clothes to clean the blood off of her hand. Drank my last beer the next day. I drank all night just looking at these people, and I decided, you know what, man, I don't want to live like these people. You know, don't have no family, no nothing. I had everything, man. How did everything go so wrong? Losing everything. And 8 o'clock in the morning, I drank my last beer, and I decided to go with my family. Started walking up the bridge, looked for the highest peak. I was telling God to forgive me what I was about to do. So I decided to go with them. Did a little couple of prayers, and went over the rail. I was all drunk. I was ready for anything to. I wasn't gonna feel nothing no more. So I went over the rail, did a cross. I counted up to 3, and I let myself go. But what I didn't know, a police unit stopped in the middle of the street. 2 officers got off. As soon as I let myself go, they grabbed me from my ankles. And I'm dangling like this on the bridge. Hey, let me go, man. I want to die. Don't move. Hey, I need backup right now. Okay. This guy just let himself go from the bridge, and I need backup ASAP right now. Call fire department. So I'm dangling like this on the bridge, and I'm telling the officer, let me go, man. I want to die. He goes, stop moving, man. I'm going to lose my grip. And they had me from my blue jean pants, from my ankles. And just let me go, man. I don't want to live. They're like, stop moving, man. We're going to lose our grip. That's what I want. So I start jumping up and down for them to lose their grip so I could die. And fire department got there quick, put a net under the bridge. They're holding a big carp like that under the bridge, and just in case I fell, 10 fire department got there from the fire department, and it took them a while to get me up because I was kind of hurt. And we got him. They pulled me up, put me in the car. Officer, what's going on, man? What do you want to kill yourself for? You're lucky we caught you on time. I go, I don't want to live, man. You don't know what happened to me, man. I lost everything that I had. All my family. Everything I own. You don't know how it feels, and I didn't want to live like these people out here, man. Oh, man, you can't kill yourself like that, man. So they took me to the magistrate. Took me to the judge. The judge told me, what's going on, Mr. Valdez? I was crying real hard, and what's going on? ¿Por qué se quiso matar, señor Valdez? And I just crying and crying until I got enough strength to tell him what happened to me. Hi, Mr. Valdez. I don't know what to tell you. That's hard. Told him my story, what happened to me. You know what? I'm gonna do you a favor. They sent me to South Presa for 7 months. I stopped eating when I got there. I didn't want to eat for 3 months. They had to force feed me. For 3 months, I wouldn't talk to them. They're like, it was going on 3 days when I got there. Mr. Valdez, you gonna eat today? Just looked down, just nodded. I wouldn't talk to them or nothing. They had me on suicide watch. Mr. Valdez, you need to eat something or we're gonna have to force feed you. I just not like, I don't care. I didn't care about my life no more. I was just dead inside. Feel like a light goes off inside. You feel alone. Used to being around family, having a house, everything. For 3 months, I wouldn't eat. And I wouldn't talk to them. How you doing today? I wouldn't even talk. I wouldn't talk to them. They wanna. I just. Um, like a light turned off inside of me. Like I was lifeless inside. Didn't have nothing to live for. Then from there they put me in Salvation Army. They put me in Salvation Army because they're Christians there, and see, they try to help me spiritually, but they have a chapel inside the Salvation Army. When I got there, I would go into the chapel at around 2 o'clock at night by myself and go have it out with God. You know, what did I do so wrong that for me to lose everything, my family, everything? What am I being punished for? What did I do so wrong? Like, every night I will go and fight with them for 3 weeks. And then I started to pick up the Bible a little. And at first, I turned, if you want to tell me something, tell me right now. So I opened the Bible and it fell on the page of Job. So I started reading Job, reading it for 2 days, reading everything that happened to him. And then I started to change a little. I will get mad at God, fighting with them every night for 3 weeks until after I read Job, I went back, threw myself in the altar. I was telling God to forgive me for fighting with them because I wanted answers. What did I do so wrong to get here? But I read Job that God let the devil attack Job to find out how if something will happen to him, that see if he will still praise God. So I kept on reading and reading. And so it kind of picked me up a little. And then I threw myself, at the end of the 3 weeks, I threw myself on the floor in front of the altar, asking God to forgive me because I wanted answers. But now I needed help. To help me get a home, you know, financially. And that's how they helped me. I was way in the back on a list, and all of a sudden they called me, hey, you're in front of a list. And I got to Robert E. Lee. And I went to go thank God. Thank you, Lord, you heard me. Forgive me of my sins, you know. Forgive me fighting with you. They gave me housing. You know, little by little, God was giving me things back, little by little. What I need too, I'm trying to get clothes. I don't have that much clothes, just sweats and these pants.
When did you move into
2 years.
Okay.
But I've been trying to get a voucher somewhere to get some clothes.
And it sounds like moving in there helped save your life
Yeah,
and helped you begin to stabilize
yes,
and to build kind of your relationships and build a family with your
Yeah.
neighbors. I assume.
yeah, and we help each other. I put a sign on my door saying, whoever comes to this, in front of this door in the name of Jesus Christ, my Lord, and you say His name, I'll open this door to anybody. Whatever you need, food or water or, you know, something if I could help you with, I'll do it. You know, people will come. A lot of people go to my room, ask me for food, you know, stuff that they need for the house. Excuse me. Like toilet paper or salt, sugar. They're always asking me for something because, like, I got that sign up there, you know, and I go by it, you know what I mean?
So if the reality for everybody, for many of the people who live there with you, is that they live with very little, and
Yes.
the little that they have, they try to share so that they can all survive together.
Yes, sir.
When did you find out that they were trying to get you out, sell this property, and
A couple of months back,
what was
but
that experience?
my stomach just, my heart went to my stomach. I'm like, I don't want to lose another home. You know, it became my home already. You know, I became comfortable being there. I could hang out in the lobby and have like family around me, because everybody's hanging out in the lobby, and it helps me to be around people because I was used to having family around me, you know what I mean? My little niece is always asking me, Theo, you help me with my homework, or can you take us to drop us off at the movies, or take us to Pizza Hut, or over here and there. And my sister, she always had me doing things for her because I was like her provider. I was a five-star chef years back, and I would make her meals. I know how to cook Chinese, Italian. I used to work in a steakhouse, so they sent me to the culinary school for cooking, and they paid for it and made me a 5-star chef. Yeah, so I was always making her Chinese one day, Italian one day, mix it up, Mexican, everything.
So let me ask you, I'm going to have to go in just a minute.
Yeah.
To lose your housing and for your neighbors,
Yeah.
what do you think will happen to everybody?
A lot of people there don't have that much. We're barely making it there, because we can't afford nothing else. There's a lot of people, they don't have no bank accounts. Like I'm in housing, I don't got no bank account. Nothing. I've been fighting the SSI for 5 years. They haven't helped me in nothing, but I could pay my rent there because I'm in low housing where I could afford it. Somewhere else I can't afford it. I can't pay the rent and water, and there's other places that they expect you to pay the water bill and all that. We can't afford that. There's people that are in wheelchairs there. I call it because we're downtown, because we're close to the hospitals around here. The GA says over here that a lot of us go to for the health center, so it's real close by downtown, by our apartment. So if we move somewhere else, it's going to be harder for us. We could barely afford going on the bus, and here we're close to all the to go to the appointments and everything. All the people that I know that are at the Robert E. Lee, they're in wheelchairs, man. We can't be walking too far, or, I know we have wheelchairs, but still, we can't walk that far and pull the. I barely make it over here. I could walk like 20 feet and I get tired. My legs are all messed up when I fell, and plus COVID is finishing me off. I don't got nowhere else to go. I barely got here, made a family. I can't take another move. I'll lose my mind again. It's like losing my home all over. I barely got somewhere where I'm comfortable, where I could forget my past, forget all the things I went through to get here. That millionaire that's buying everything, he doesn't care about the people. We're just peasants to him. He needs to know that we're somebody. We count. They just can't push us aside like we're nobodies. We're somebody. We're family around here. Let him somebody go to his house and throw him out and lose everything that belonged to him, see how he feels. Be on the other foot. But my God is my refuge. Like the Bible says, it's harder for a wealthy man to go to heaven but to lose his soul. Because he don't got no soul. He don't care. These people don't need no stadium. They're like 4 stadiums that they don't even use in San Antonio. They're like 3, 4 stadiums they don't even use. They had built downtown in '84. They made a big mall over here. They even invited Chuck Berry to come see in the opening. For years it just stood there, and then they dropped it. Spent millions of dollars for nothing. For nothing. You really want to help San Antonio make homes for the homeless. There's a lot of homeless out there. Because I know, because I was one. And it sucks not to have somewhere to go and lay your head down and have comfort where you could, sleep with nobody bothering you, have your own place. They don't know that value. All they want to be building for nothing. They're just using city dollars. And I think the mayor sold us out. I think he paid them just to pay for his how you say it? Campaign. I'm sorry, I can't say it. He sold us out just to wear a thing saying vote for me. Oh.
I'll let you know when it's clear. Looks good.
Oh, okay.
How can people support? This will be like kind of my last question, but I know I talked with your neighbor who's helping to organize the residents, and she kind of shared her thoughts, but for people to know what's happening.
They need to know we count.
Mm-hmm.
We're people too, man. We're no peasants. That's how that guy sees us, that millionaire, like we're some kind of peasants, that we don't count. We count. All they want to do is just walk all over us, like they're walking over graves. You know what I mean? People need to hear our cry, man, because we do count. We're no peasants, we're family, man.
And make sure I know your name and how to spell it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you spell it for me?
Ruben, and then Valdez, Baldez.
Okay, all right.
So,
We'll put something together this week, okay? And
No, that's
make sure
good.
that you get a copy.
no, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. And maybe we'll see you again. We'll maybe see you at the Robert E. Lee or, you know,
No, that's fine.
okay,
My room number is 305,
okay.
and yeah, so, but yeah, the house that we lost, my mom and my dad, we all paid for that house. All my family were migrant workers. We're working around United States, all the way from Florida, Washington, all over Minnesota, San Francisco, California. Then we ended up in Uvalde, and because I had 9 uncles and 9 aunts. My mom was from Mexico. My dad was a migrant worker helping the farmer, because my dad knew he was bilingual, and my dad would go to Mexico and find migrants to work in the fields, and he met my mom, and he brought my mom and his sisters to come work in the United States, right? So my uncle fell in love with my aunt, and my mom and my dad, they got married first, and then my uncles were 9. My uncles were 9, and with my dad it was 10, and my mom. So they all got together. All my aunts had like 5, 6 kids, and we all were working in the fields. We're like 40 at the time around there.
So all of that to find one home and to build a place. Yeah.
So I call it, we struggled to get here, man. And just to lose it, you know, the hard way.
Yeah.
All my uncles and my aunts, they paid for it. And then they went back to Uvalde and they stayed in Uvalde. The farmers that they were working for gave them like a little piece of land for them in the farm. So they stayed there farming with the farmer, and they gave them little piece of land and paid them off. So they stayed at Uvalde. We used to bring, remember the old market square? That they would bring the 6-wheelers full of onions, tomatoes, carrots from Uvalde, and bring them and sell them here to the market. And then we'll go to Floresville, then Poteet, and what's on the other side of Poteet? I forgot the name.
Evil or something down
Yeah,
there?
there were peanuts.
Oh,
Yeah, they would grow peanuts.
yeah.
And because we didn't want to leave Texas no more.
Yeah.
We've been all over.
Right.
So we decided to just stay in Texas and make money. And then, so when we moved over here, I got married when I was 14. My dad was he became a contractor, and we're doing slabs and driveways and everything. So, and we'll do brown and scratch. We'll plaster. We'll do all kinds of cement. But when I got married when I was 14, my wife was 12. My dad told me, like, see, you should have finished school. Now pura piqui pala. So, yeah, I did that for 15 years until he retired. Then I jumped to framing. So, all my life, puro labor. But yeah, man. But just to end up here, man, you know, when I go to my room, it's kind of lonely, but still, you know, I have a place to lay my head down. You know what I mean? I still thank God for that, man. I got a place to go, say that it's mine, you know.
Thank you for joining us, for sticking around this long, and we hope that folks will tie in, tap in, help out, stand with, demand more, be good neighbors, be good kin. Check us out at deceleration.news. We'll continue trying to grow solutions in an overheating